What is an f-stop? Every exposure triangle video on YouTube will tell you that it's about how much light gets through the aperture of your lens. The lower the f number, the more light that gets through. But if we're measuring this in f-stops, then why do some other lenses show t-stops? Well, f-stops aren't as exact as you might think. For a quick still photo, it's usually close enough, but when you compare two lenses, something weird starts to happen. These two photos were both taken at an f4 with a vintage lens and a modern lens. And you can see they're not quite the same. This is because f-stop is not actually a measure of how much light is going through a lens. The f number is actually a theoretical number derived through a physics equation. F number equals focal length over apparent pupil diameter. Apparent pupil diameter sounds complicated, but it's actually pretty straightforward. When you look down the front of your lens, how big does the aperture look? If we take a photo of the front of the lens and do a quick measurement in Photoshop, we can actually get a really accurate f number really easily. Unfortunately, this simple calculation doesn't really account for glass quality, lens coatings, internal reflections, or any number of other things that can affect how your lens exposes. Because of all these different variables, an f-stop can only ever get so close to a perfect exposure. As you can imagine, different lenses having different exposures can be very annoying when shooting a movie, especially on film, and especially if you're cutting that film by hand. On these older productions, if you were cutting between two lenses with different exposures, that slight exposure difference becomes very apparent in the edit. This is why cinematographers eventually switched over to using lenses with t-stops instead. So what's a t-stop? The T in t-stop is short for transmission. Instead of using that dusty equation, we can actually measure how much light is making it through the lens onto our captured image. This way, whenever we switch lenses, we just have to match the t-stop and the exposure will match perfectly. But how do we actually measure a t-stop? Our lens tech Rita is going to show us how.
Hi, I'm Rita. I'm a lens technician at Alice. This machine is for you to measure t-stop. It's called t-stop meter. When you build a lens, you have your iris put in the lens. Then you can put it on and actually measure the stop and actually label the stop on the lens.
I would like to test out my $50 Helios. You can see like the front coating is like all scratched off.
So right now we have this lens open way up to f2. So let's see how much light is actually going through the lens and what t-stop it will be. And then usually we will choose a donut that's better for the diameter of the lens, but this is currently our smallest donut. So we are putting this against the lens and then we'll turn it on. So right now the f-stop on this lens is say f2, but on the t-stop software right now is showing me is sensing 2.2 t-stop. F-stop is never gonna give you like a very accurate measurement because it's usually a calculation, it's not really a measurement. So t-stop would be the most accurate value that the light is going through it. Sometimes you will lose the light, but sometimes you will also get reflection coming from whatever, inside the lens or outside the lens.
While there isn't a major difference between t-stops and f-stops, cinematographers usually prefer t-stops, and most cine lenses are made with t-stops in mind. With modern digital cameras and color correction software, it's really not that hard to correct for these minor exposure differences, but as any cinematographer will tell you, it's better to get it right the first time. Thanks for watching, I hope you learned something, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this.